Some shows are so wild you think they're just gonna be pure chaos. But Batman, the brave and the bold, proves you can go full-on absurd, be hilarious, and still hit with some real emotional gut punches. This is the kind of cartoon that starts with a tiger auction and ends with an existential crisis about fate and free will, all in a single episode. And the best part, it pulls it off with a very different kind of Batman. More expressive, more theatrical, but still 100% badass. Over the seasons, you get everything. Blue Beetle mistaken for an alien messiah, Bat-Mite trying to cancel the show itself, Aquaman going through an existential meltdown, and even a baseball game between heroes and villains with Jimmy Olsen doing the play-by-play. It's the kind of series that makes you laugh, makes you think, and leaves you finishing the episode going, wait, this really aired on TV? So get ready, because today we're diving headfirst into this wild multiversal ride, from season 1 to the very end, covering the craziest, most epic, and most underrated episodes along the way. Smash that like button, subscribe, and let's go. It all kicks off with the classic heroes in peril scenario, because nothing screams pilot episode like Batman and Green Arrow trapped in a death trap by a villain whose theme is, of all things, clocks. Naturally, the duo trades snarky remarks while figuring out an escape. Green Arrow's quips are sharp as ever, and Batman, well, he's got the charm of a brick wall, but let's pretend that's part of the appeal. In the end, the only clock that stops ticking is the villain's. Poetic. Cut to Johnny Reyes' bedroom, a textbook nerd lair, superhero posters, a TV blaring news of intergalactic beatdowns, and a deep philosophical debate with his buddy Paco about how cool it'd be to become a superhero, until you realize the hassle that comes with the job. One tiny detail, Jaime is already sort of a hero, he just doesn't know it yet. He's unknowingly carrying an alien scarab on his back, and no, that's not a metaphor for back pain.
Blue Beetle at your service.
The urgency ramps up when Batman himself breaks into the kid's room, recruiting him for an emergency mission, a meteor, a space station, and a wormhole. Because why not throw a clueless teenager into a cosmic crisis, right? On the other side of the galaxy, they land among the Gibbles, an alien race that takes one look at Jaime and sees their new messiah, all because the scarab once belonged to someone who fought the tyrant Kanjar-Ro. Batman figures the previous wielder either died or ditched the gig. Hard to say. Totally unprepared, Jaime ends up leading an impromptu revolution. His rallying speech sounds more like a last-minute school project, but somehow it works. Go figure. And just like that, he starts getting the hang of the suit, even ends up saving Batman.
I just saved Batman. I just saved Batman!
Who saw that coming? Things are looking up until Kanjar-Ro plays his trap card, the Gamma Gong, an alien horn that fries the scarab's circuits. Jaime crashes, the Gibbles lose faith, and hope flatlines. Enter the Rocky Balboa moment. Inspired by Batman's tough love pep talk, Jaime thinks outside the sound, literally, and turns the Gamma Gong's interference against Kanjar-Ro. Strategy, baby. The villain falls, the Gibbles rally, and everyone learns to believe in themselves, except the scarab, which still tries to take over Jaime whenever it gets the chance. Back on Earth, Jaime has survived his first cosmic mission and earned Batman's seal of approval. He's now officially a partner. Not bad for a kid who, just hours ago, was nerding out on the couch, and thus, the reluctant hero is born. Blue Beetle, temperamental armor, galactic-level trouble magnet, and still trying to get his homework done on time. Sometime later, we see Ted Kord, another Blue Beetle, who despite having an alien parasite fused to his spine, forms a high-tech dynamic duo with Batman himself. The two trade punches with villains while joking about how being a hero these days takes an engineering degree and a limitless credit card. Because yes, between fluoride lasers and light disorienters, whatever that means, saving the world has officially become a PhD level investment. After lots of blasting, brawling, and science, Jaime manages to squeeze in a philosophical chat with Paco, the friend who's always there to keep it real, and throw in a well-timed jab. Paco drops the line, anyone can be Green Lantern with the right ring, while Jaime clings to the romantic notion that heroes are chosen by merit. Like the universe runs on a cosmic Excel sheet of morality, doubt starts to creep in. Did he really earn the right to be the new Blue Beetle, or was it just dumb luck? Things get worse when he tries to squeeze some answers out of Batman. Naturally, the caped crusader responds in the most Batman way possible, with silence, a brooding glare, and that classic, I'm too busy for this energy. So what does Jaime do? What any self-respecting teen would, he Googles it, and voila, up pops Ted Kord, a a tacky fan page, a company named after a retired superhero, and a mysterious location that screams Scooby-Doo episode. Next thing you know, Jaime goes full Indiana Jones and winds up on a hidden island, because obviously every ex-hero's secret lab has to be on a cloaked tropical island. There, he meets a supposed Ted Cord, now in tech guru with utopian rants and a pyramid scheme smile mode. This guy claims he sent the Scarab to find someone virtuous. Jaime, of course, eats it up, because nothing boosts your self-esteem like a random old guy telling you you're worthy, but the vibes go south fast when this Ted starts talking about global drone control and peace through tech-based oppression. And who shows up, of course? Batman, like that skeptical uncle who crashes the barbecue just in time to say, "Told you so." The Ted turns out to be Jarvis Cord, the real villain of the story, who played Jaime like a fiddle to get the Scarab and launch his evil plan. And here comes the gut punch. The real Ted Cord died trying to stop his deranged uncle's scheme. No superpowers, just grit and engineering know-how. He sabotaged Jarvis's rocket at the last second, went down a martyr, and let the Scarab fly free until it found its way to our crisis-ridden hero. But there's no time to grieve, because Jarvis activates the drones and the island turns into an apocalyptic theme park. Jaime, fed up with being a pawn, decides to burn it all down. Literally. He overloads the island systems, risking his life, while Batman throws down with the drones. Spoiler, they make it out. In the end, standing among the wreckage, Jaime faces the truth. He feels like a fool for believing he was chosen, but Batman, ever the poet, leaves him with a line that sums it all up. Being chosen doesn't make you a hero. Your choices do.
Spoken like a true hero.
Get ready for a plot twist straight out of a writer's room powered by energy drinks and chaos. Grodd, the evil genius gorilla, is locked up, but not by who you think. He's captured by a mysterious villain who isn't after revenge, power, or a deal with Warner Brothers. What he wants is balance. That's right, our thrift store Thanos believes that to destroy a villain, the hero must be taken down too. Batman, who didn't earn his genius badge by accident, figures it out instantly. This lunatic would never let the destruction equation go unbalanced. So, with a plan so precise, Alfred would give it a standing ovation. The Dark Knight solves the crisis before it turns tragic, but there's no time to rest. New mission incoming, and who shows up? Aquaman, King of the Seven Seas. And strangely, kind of down in the dumps. The guy's so low, he makes early 2000s emo kids look chipper. Feeling guilty for not saving a group of hunted whales, he tags along with Batman to the planet Rann, mostly because, well, he's got nothing better to do. Saving a planet might be just the antidepressant he needs. Once there, they're greeted by Adam Strange, the least famous guy in the superhero lunch line, his wife Alana, and father-in-law Sardath. The planet's on the brink of alien apocalypse, thanks to the Gordanians, a race that looks like bad cosplay and dreams of nuclear domination. Their target, the Eye of Zared, a legendary weapon with the power to obliterate everything, basically Twitter, but with a laser beam. Aquaman, though swimming in existential dread, still throws down. That heroic spark in his eye dimmed, but the strength still there, like bad Wi-Fi that somehow keeps working. And in a heart-to-heart with Batman, who also moonlights as a moral shock therapist, Aquaman opens up more than a reality show contestant. The turning point, Adam Strange loses everything and considers quitting hero life. That's when Aquaman finally snaps out of his emotional coma, delivers a speech worthy of Captain Planet, and rekindles hope in both Adam and himself. Meanwhile, tragedy doesn't take a break. Adam is separated from his wife by the Zeta Beam. Yes, the most emotionally devastating teleportation method in fiction. Now trillions of miles away, he's still inspired by Aquaman's newfound purpose and decides to fight again. Then comes a plan so wild it would make Einstein feel like he missed a few classes. Create an artificial eclipse by moving Earth's moon to Rann, because sure, why not? Aquaman dives into alien oceans to harness thermal energy, because swimming is his thing. Adam plays the broken hero to distract the enemy, and Batman lines up the most important shot of his career. Yes, even more than the one that orphaned him. The eclipse hits, the Eye of Zared powers down, and the villains, out of juice and out of story, surrender. We're thrown into a scene as improbable as an NFT auction in 2021, a clandestine auction for a Sumatran tiger. Because of course, if there's one thing rich villains love, it's spending millions to keep an endangered animal in their living room. But then who shows up? You guessed it, Batman, as punctual and justice-driven as ever, making even a government agency Galaxy look efficient. He crashes the auction, hands out punches with the finesse of someone who's fought Superman, takes on Catman, think Wolverine, but with a worse ego, and saves the tiger, because life is life, even if it's a feline trying to claw your face off. Just when it looks like the episode's going to follow the save the day, now disappear into the smoke formula, reality starts slipping like a wet bar of soap. A mysterious voice narrates events in real time. The setting changes without rhyme or reason. Villains become carnival clowns. All thanks to Bat-Mite, a fifth-dimensional imp who's basically the cosmic equivalent of a fanboy overdosed on energy drinks. Bat-Mite is Batman's #1 fan, the kind who would tattoo the bat symbol on his forehead if he could. But like every intense fan, he's also a major problem. He doesn't just want to watch Batman, he wants to rewrite him. He changes the suit, swaps villains, interferes mid-fight like a screenwriter mad at the ending of the Batman. His crowning achievement, turning the forgettable Calendar Man into the almighty Calendar King, a holiday-themed supervillain wielding Easter Bunny mutants, Christmas bikers, and Uncle Sam patrol squads. At the height of this madness, we're thrown into a fifth-dimensional fan convention. Yes, even cosmic entities have Comic-Cons, where one fan complains the show isn't dark enough anymore. That's when the episode hits us with a full-blown meta-commentary roundhouse kick, aimed squarely at fans who only accept Batman with a gravelly voice and parental trauma. With a dash of diplomacy and an autographed Batarang, worth more than any Bored Ape NFT, Batman convinces Bat-Mite to head back to his corner of the galaxy, but not without calling him a pest to Ace, leaving our interdimensional fanboy more heartbroken than a DC fan checking Rotten Tomatoes. Bat-Mite's revenge? Treat Batman like a breakable toy. But here comes the twist. Batman refuses to fight. That short-circuits Bat-Mite's entire circus of chaos. The Dark Knight throws down the gauntlet. If you know me so well, why don't you try being Batman? Spoiler alert. It doesn't go well. Bat-Mite has the cowl, but none of the grit. He gets stomped by the B-list villain squad and ends up begging for help.
Crumbs.
And who answers the call? The original, the one and only, the stoic with a cause, Batman. In the end, the moral. Being a hero isn't about style or powers, it's about responsibility. Cue Uncle Ben winking from the heavens. Bat-Mite kind of learns his lesson, until the final scene, where he's already fangirling over Green Arrow. Amid a war zone that looks like it was ripped straight out of a post-apocalyptic nightmare, the one calling the shots is none other than Batman, because obviously when chaos is involved, you call the most sociable guy in the league. The Dark Knight decides to split the fun. He'll handle the aircraft, because no one pilots tension quite like he does, while Hawk and Dove take on the muscle on the ground. Of course, in a shock to absolutely no one, the brothers start bickering like two kids fighting over the last chicken nugget. Hawk complains because he wanted to blow things up, noble ambition, and poor Dove tries to keep the plan on track. The result? A full-on ego clash mid-battle. Cue Batman's classic line, "This is why I work alone." In the end, and despite the sibling drama, the two manage to pull it together and clear the way for a possible peace treaty. But just as things are settling down, in comes the Global Peace Agency. Sounds fancy, zero tact. Unimpressed by the team's performance, they decide Batman needs a partner. Enter Buddy Blank, a chipper, clumsy janitor, and a full-on Bat fanboy. Yep, a janitor. Nothing against it, but let's just say it's not exactly the most conventional resume. The twist? Buddy is actually OMAC in dormant mode. All it takes is the GPA activating the Brother Eye satellite, and suddenly the janitor becomes a neon blue Terminator. Goodbye, Buddy. Hello, soulless, memory-wiped killing machine. OMAC goes after scientist Kafka, who, thanks to a healthy dose of radioactive irony, turns into the villain Shrapnel, and he's got a bone to pick. The GPA obliterated his village in the name of keeping the peace. The kind of peace that says, let's blow everything up and sort it out later. The whole thing raises the classic question, do the ends really justify the means as all hell breaks loose? And then comes the cherry on top, Equinox, the oracle of cosmic balance and self-proclaimed master manipulator of the whole affair. He basically tells everyone, Batman, OMAC, Shrapnel, they're just pawns on the universal chessboard. But Batman, being Batman, gracefully refuses to play second fiddle. He chooses to protect the innocent even if the universe itself stands against him. Because if you're going to be stubborn, might as well do it in style. The situation escalates when the base's reactor starts to melt down, threatening to turn the city into a radioactive Chernobyl 2.0, and that's when we get our faith in humanity moment. OMAC realizes that pounding on Shrapnel only makes him stronger. Inspired by Batman, who would have guessed? He changes tactics and uses defensive shields to contain the disaster. Then, when things hit a breaking point, Buddy regains consciousness inside the OMAC shell, confused, terrified, but resolute. He decides to stay behind and stop the explosion, even if it costs him his life. Spoiler, he pulls it off. And just like that, that, the Janitor becomes a hero. Who saw that coming? Sometime later in Gotham, a city that seems to have forgotten what sunlight looks like, we find ourselves in that classic X's running into each other kind of moment when Batman comes face to face with Two-Face. Harvey Dent, as unstable as elevator Wi-Fi, escapes Arkham, leaving 2 guards in critical condition. Naturally, he still trusts his lucky coin more than therapy. The coin says to spare Batman, but his goons didn't get the memo and decide to spice up the night with a good old-fashioned brawl. Cut to a trippy mystical detour. Batman is taken by Equinox, a being so obsessed with balance he borders on schizophrenic, to a temple featuring a gyroscope spinning like anxiety before final exams. Equinox delivers a cosmic TED Talk. If the gyroscope stops, Earth turns into a frying pan on one side and an icebox on the other. His solution? Keep the chaos spinning or wipe the slate clean and start over. Super healthy mindset. Enter Dr. Fate with his fashion-forward helmet and the confident stance of someone who definitely thinks he knows what he's doing. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. Together, they try to stop Equinox, but the guy is basically a cosmic force of nature. And just to crank up the doomsday meter, Equinox wants to sacrifice Fate in a ritual that looks like it was storyboarded by Pink Floyd. As the crisis escalates, Batman and Fate seek out the Lords of Order and Chaos, basically the divorced parents of the multiverse. Turns out Equinox was supposed to be the neutral judge between them, but now he's more like the destructive uncle at Thanksgiving dinner, with reality-shattering powers. He went mad trying to fix the universe, and now he thinks the only fix is blowing it all up and buying a new one. Equinox finally shows up in his divine form, straight up final boss energy, and Dr. Fate admits he's too predictable for this kind of battle. The wild card, Batman. Because let's face it, if anyone gets the balance between order and chaos, it's the guy who dresses like a bat to beat up clowns at night. Batman becomes the ultimate cosmic avatar, but instead of launching laser beams, he goes for the jugular, Equinox's ego. Pretending to surrender, Batman hits him with some brutal truth, exposing the hypocrisy in Equinox's obsession with balance while acting out of pure resentment. That psychological punch lands hard. Equinox shatters in a mystic meltdown. There they were, the challengers of the unknown, that little squad that looks like it walked out of a survival reality show, only with more testosterone and less Wi-Fi. Ace Morgan, the pilot who thinks nothing can go wrong when you're flying toward a radioactive meteor. Professor Haley, who figures using sonar on a haunted island is a brilliant idea. Red Ryan, the Indiana Jones wannabe, and Rocky Davis, the triathlete who swapped Iron Man for the apocalypse.
They are the challengers of the unknown.
They were on an island where even the weeds looked hostile, investigating the crash of a meteorite that resembled a giant alien USB stick. Spoiler alert, it wasn't your average rock. While Professor Haley fried the sensors on the portable lab, guess who showed up? That's right, Batman, the Dark Knight, the vigilante of shadows, and spreadsheets. He was already onto that glowing meteor, knowing full well it wasn't some intergalactic Christmas ornament. Suddenly, a local spider, just minding its own 8-legged business, gets a dose of radiation and decides it's the perfect day to become a mutant monster. Chaos ensues, but with a shove from Batman and Haley's scientific brilliance, they temporarily shut down the 8-legged nightmare. But the warning is clear. This meteor is serious trouble, end of the world by Monday kind of trouble. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Jaime Reyes, the Blue Beetle, decides to ignore Batman, always a wise move, right? And flies solo on a justice crusade. He ends up facing off with Evil Star, wins the fight, and thinks he's ready to hand out galactic justice like candy. He brings the villain to Oa, home of the Green Lanterns, and is met with slaps and suspicion. Guy Gardner, the most abrasive lantern with the most questionable haircut, lays it out. Jaime Scarab is tech from the Reach, a race of invaders who love turning teenagers into walking bioweapons. Jaime turns into a war machine, and the Reach invasion kicks off. Cue the terrifying screams. Batman, ever the one with 2 functioning brain cells, tries to reason with Jaime. Inside, in a mental brawl flavored with existential crisis, Jaime fights his way back. The crazy plan of the day: use Green Lantern ring energy to supercharge the Scarab. Everyone thinks it's a terrible idea, but since it's Batman's idea, no one dares say no. Even Guy Gardner, who up until now only knew how to complain, finally steps up and has Jaime's back. Jaime, now in control, wipes out the Reach Collective with a final blow. The Guardians even try to strip him of the Scarab, but Guy Gardner, who spent the whole episode being a pain, finally shows he's got a heart and delivers a courtroom-worthy speech in Jaime's defense. Sometime Sometime later, we open with that classic 1940s noir detective vibe, except with a slightly more zoological twist. Batman stands alongside Detective Chimp, yes, a crime-solving chimpanzee, interrogating a guy who looks more confused than a filler episode villain. Under Batman's intense stare and the chimp's shrewd instincts, the suspect cracks. He's no colonel, just a hot dog vendor from the Lower East Side. He faked his degree, wears a fake nose, seriously, and has a disturbing habit of eating leftovers before doing the dishes. It's like a reverse life coach horror show, but the personal train wreck ends when they reveal the real culprit. False face, the master of disguise, hiding in plain sight. A quick scuffle, punches fly, grunts echo, the chimp dives in, Batman finishes him off, and curtain call. We're then thrown into a flashback, sepia-toned and newspaper textured, complete with a patriotic soundtrack. Enter the legendary Justice Society of America, looking like the original Justice League lineup, because, well, they kinda are. A Grandpa Save the World edition. Wildcat, Hourman, Hawkman, Flash, Dr. Midnight, and Black Canary face off against Perdegaton in the middle of World War II. The villain time travels in, brings futuristic tanks, and of course, wants to take over the world. He vanishes mysteriously mid-monologue, because every respectable villain must disappear at their dramatic peak. Jump to the present, and the vibe shifts to a seniors reunion with rebellious youth crashing the party. Dinah, the new Black Canary, wants to be taken seriously, but she's the only one not realizing the weight her name carries. Wildcat treats her like the team's sidekick, and to make it worse, she suspects Batman is the old-timer's favorite. Spoiler, he totally is. But plot twist, deep down, Dinah was their chosen one, the JSA's golden girl. The celebration turns sour when an alarm blares and Professor Z breaks into the team's vault, going after the Spear of Destiny, an artifact that, naturally, no one thought to guard better. With the spear in hand, Z does what every generic villain does. Frees his boss trapped in anti-particles. And guess who it is? Yup, Degaton, now younger, sleeker, and even more genocidal. Degaton wastes no time. He rallies his robot army and storms the museum where the old guard is gathered. The battle is epic, or would be if the heroes weren't, well, rusty. Wildcat tries to be the group's Rottweiler, but age takes its toll. Amidst the chaos, he finds Senior Dinah, the original Canary, mortally wounded. In a melodramatic soap opera-worthy farewell, she asks him to protect her daughter. That's the moment Wildcat finally sees Dinah for who she truly is, a capital H hero. Overwhelmed by grief and the weight of her legacy, Dinah goes full unstoppable mode and leads the charge against Degaton. Armed with the Spear of Destiny, the villain bends time like flipping TV channels, but the heroes hold strong. They stumble, fall, rise again, like any good season finale ensemble. And in the climactic moment, Dinah unleashes a sonic scream that leaves no doubt, power runs in the family. Degaton tries one last desperate move with the spear. Spoiler alert, it never works, and ends up blowing himself up along with his overinflated ego. With the threat gone, we get a heartwarming epilogue. The old-timers finally take off their blinders and embrace the next generation. Dinah is no longer just a stand-in. She's the Black Canary, with her mother's seal of approval. She inherits not just the name, but the full respect of the Justice Society, because in the end, the JSA isn't just a team, it's a family. A knight in Gotham that kicks off with some Vegas-style magic and ends in full-blown therapy mode. This episode features Batman going toe-to-toe with Abracadabra, the villain who thinks illusions are just glittery tech tricks. The guy puppeteers history's greatest magicians like he's the Dark Knight version of a Vegas showman. Luckily, Zeteta swoops in to balance the freak show, and unlike him, she does real magic, by talking backwards and leaving us decoding her spells till the credits roll. Then the episode slams the gas with a flashback to Bruce's origin trauma. Yes, again, little Bruce walks out of a Zorro screening overjoyed only to get a hardcore life lesson. His parents are murdered right in front of him. Right there, among spilled popcorn and fresh blood, the vow is made, the one we all know by heart. Fight crime forever.
The rest of my life, warring on all criminals.
Or at least until Wayne Enterprises runs out of budget. Meanwhile, in the great beyond, two cosmic figures watch the drama unfold. Phantom Stranger and Spectre. A sort of angel versus vengeance spirit condo meeting about Batman's soul. One wants justice, the other wants carnage. Their celestial bet. Whether Bruce becomes a righteous avenger or a deluxe psychopath. Back in the mortal world, Bruce, dressed like a priest, because of course he is, pays a visit to dying mob boss Louis Moxon. In true deathbed confession style, Louis drops the missing puzzle piece. He ordered the hit on Thomas Wayne, the trigger man, some guy named Joe Chill. Thanks for the trauma dump, Louis. Great timing. Fueled by rage, Batman scours Gotham's underworld like he's binging spoilers online. seeing Bruce teetering on Punisher with a cowl territory, Phantom Stranger does the only logical thing, time travel. Bruce gets to see his parents alive, enjoying a Halloween party. He even interacts with them, which should break every rule of the timeline, but hey, we'll let it slide. Then he sees Joe Chill coldly accepting the hit on his father, like he's ordering fast food. Result? The vow is reactivated, this time turbocharged with wrath. Back in the present, Batman tracks Chill to an illegal arms deal. Crashing the party, he drops the bomb.
I know because I am the son of the man you murdered.
Chill panics and confesses that he created Batman. The crowd of villains reacts like fans realizing their favorite show was ruined by a bad script. All fists, no mercy. Chaos ensues. The sonic disruptor malfunctions, the roof caves in, and guess who ends up as villain pudding? Joe Chill. And just when you think it might be coincidence, Spectre flashes that "I totally didn't interfere" smirk. Tension fills the air as Bruce stands in the Batcave, hanging up his father's bat-themed costume. It's more than a tribute. It's the symbolic end of an era, and with the calm of someone who finally closed his emotional tabs, he says, "Case closed."
Case closed.
Since the dawn of time, or at least since humanity decided that alien villains were a legitimate threat, heroes have always risen to dive headfirst into chaos. And this moment right here, it feels like something ripped straight out of an 80s movie trailer. An intergalactic invasion with giant eyes, mind control, and a level of madness so absurd, it might even make Batman rethink the whole cape thing. Right from the jump, Guy Gardner, easily the most reckless and egotistical Green Lantern in the galaxy, goes full Rambo against a swarm of one-eyed alien Starro minions. Everyone's yelling at him to fall back, but our guy would rather become a heroic statistic than take advice. Meanwhile, Booster Gold struts in, convinced Batman handpicked him for this mission. Spoiler, he wasn't even the third choice. And over in Star City, meteors rain down, like the world just subscribed to the full apocalypse package. Down in the Batcave, it's not the Caped Crusader who steals the scene. It's Ace, the bat-sniffing dog who deserves his own spin-off. He digs up an alien artifact, an intergalactic beacon. Along with the beacon comes the Faceless Hunter, a cosmic stalker messenger hybrid, who casually drops the bomb that half the heroes are now more brainwashed than reality show contestants. Sensing the game has changed, Batman sends out a coded distress signal to those still in control of their own minds. Who answers? A ragtag crew straight out of a comedy flick. 2 kids, a gym teacher, a scientist, and Bee-Wanna Beast. Yep, the guy who fuses animals together. Confidence level? 0. Surprise potential? Through the roof. The mission? Invade Star City and shut down Starro's mental Wi-Fi. But because disasters love company, Vixen, Bee-Wanna's fiancé, shows up possessed. Now it's not just about saving the world, it's a relationship drama with aliens involved. In the heat of the battle, the team discovers the parasites work like living power banks. To avoid becoming spore snacks, the heroes disguise themselves as civilians and scramble to rescue innocents. Because really, faking normalcy during a crisis might as well be a superpower. Meanwhile, Batman crosses paths with the Faceless Hunter again, and the villain spills his tragic backstory. His species was immune to mind control, so Starro made them targets. To survive, he sold his soul to the enemy. But the way he mourns Starro's fall raises eyebrows, like that coworker who swears they hated the boss but sobs when they're fired. The crisis reaches its peak when Starro descends upon Earth in all his cosmic cephalopod glory. But then Shazam, a teen with god-tier powers, goes for the classic repeat the spell till it works move. His lightning magic actually hurts the parasites, and for the first time, Starro pulls back. A small miracle. And just when it looks like things might turn around, bam! The Faceless Hunter survives and unveils his new secret weapon, none other than Batman. Because if there's anything scarier than a mind-controlling alien, it's a traumatized billionaire with free time. The war against Starro may be turning, but the real nightmare, it's just getting started. You know that moment when the universe seems like it's circling the drain and you think, well, that's it, we're done? Yeah. Starro, the intergalactic apocalypse octopus, decided it was time to turn Earth into an all-you-can-destroy buffet. With most heroes either possessed, dead, or spiritually retired, what's left is a scrappy bunch of survivors and a threadbare sliver of hope. Then, out of the cosmic magician's hat appears Bee-Wanna Beast. Yep, that guy. The hero you probably forgot even existed, now carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, and an emotional burden worthy of a primetime soap opera. The cherry on top? He made a deal with Starro. Something like, Wanna wreck my planet? Be my guest, just get me out of here. Poetic, right? Clarimar's problem now. But Starro's not satisfied. He wants more. He wants to turn B'Wana into a walking weapon of mass destruction. And B'Wana, guess what? Has a change of heart. Right before the final round, he makes a request to Batman. Tell Vixen he still loves her. Cue the drama. Meanwhile, Aquaman, king of the seven seas and of well-timed disappearances, returns to action. But the real scene stealer is the villain Faceless Hunter, who decides to play mad scientist with alien spores and builds a towering colossus version of Starro that grows faster than a credit card bill. Salvation comes in metallic form. Literally, the heroes call in William Magnus, creator of the Metal Men, robots immune to energy drain. Perfect plan. Except, plot twist, Magnus is possessed, and the robots have been reprogrammed by Starro. 1 point for the villain. Enter Skeets, the trusty little robot who always pulls through. They free Magnus, reboot the Metal Men, and form Alloy, a giant metal megazord ready to throw down with Starro's mutant monstrosity. While Alloy handles the heavy lifting, Batman goes full stealth mode. He infiltrates, faces off with the Faceless Hunter, and of course, wins, using one of the villain's own gadgets, because he's Batman, obviously. Now free from mind control, B'Wana Beast knows what he must do. He charges the Star Abomination head on, and, in a classic now or never move, uses his fusion power to dismantle the monster, sacrificing himself in the process.
Tell Vixen I love her.
A real hero dies saving the world, and leaves a love note behind. In the end, Earth is saved, a bit battered, emotionally scarred, but still standing. Just another ordinary night where Batman decides to go out with the outsiders and punch identity crisis-ridden snake cultists. That's right, the Cobra Cult. And while the team dives into the chaos, Halo, Katana, Metamorpho, Geoforce, each one plays their part with near military precision. It's like Batman gave a PowerPoint briefing before the mission. The strategy class ends in victory, of course, but as always, when everything's going too smoothly, get ready for the twist. Cut to another part of Central City, where the city's criminal trifecta, Captain Cold, Heatwave, and Weather Wizard, are trying to stir up trouble. But something's missing, or rather, someone. The Flash. The villains are raising hell, but they're also venting like widows mourning the Scarlet Speedster. Even they miss Barry, and like bitter exes who can't move on, they take shots at Batman's dark, brooding style. But don't lose hope. Here come two sparks of it. Jay Garrick, the old school Flash with the tin helmet, and Wally West, the kid Flash with anger issues and unresolved daddy drama. They help contain the chaos, but the atmosphere is heavier than the Bat's cape. Wally's bitter, dodging Jay like a cousin at a family reunion. And then the truth hits.
Barry Allen, the Flash, died fighting Professor Zoom.
He got trapped in the time stream, in a mad dash with Zoom that hurled him beyond the light. Literally. Jay and Wally were flung to the emergency exit of this weird dimension, but Barry stayed behind. By choice, a hero-level sacrifice. Since then, Wally's carried the guilt, and Jay's clung to the stubborn belief that Barry's still out there, and maybe he is. Jay says he saw Barry. Batman too. Guilt? Hallucination? Or just another weird Saturday in the DCU? Thanks to the Cosmic Treadmill, they confirm Barry's vibrational signature is still alive. Mission accepted. Retrieve the lost Flash. Destination, the 25th century. Zoom isn't just alive. He's ruling. He turned Barry into a living battery, draining his speed to power an army and conquer time itself. Because being a generic villain isn't enough. He needs a megalomaniacal monologue and a torture device. Jay and Wally must put their differences aside, because Zoom is basically an angry Usain Bolt on 3 Red Bulls. But instead of sulking, the Flashes make a plan. Run fast enough to rip open a dimensional rift. When Zoom tries to bolt with his usual villain speech, bam! He gets tripped, literally. In the climax, Barry breaks free, and we get that epic moment. All 3 Flashes running together. High-speed justice, emotional punch, and a whole lot of punching. Zoom is defeated by the very unity he tried to destroy. Back in the present, it's quiet reunions and subtle smiles. Because DC heroes don't cry, they punch. Barry is back. The city breathes again, and even the villains stay silent for a second. It was supposed to be a chemistry class, but the vibe screamed bad romantic comedy. You know, the kind where the ex shows up out of nowhere? Only this time she's armed with the power to freeze more than just your dating apps. Ronnie Raymond is up front, breaking down covalent bonds using foot football metaphors, because sure, that's modern education now. When the temperature literally drops, cue the entrance of the one and only and utterly merciless Killer Frost, also known as Louise Lincoln, the ex who never got over being ghosted via text. Between emotional jabs and killer cold snaps, the whole city nearly turns into a popsicle. But hey, nothing a little emotionally charged brawl can't fix. Ronnie morphs into Firestorm and fights back while awkwardly trying to justify the breakup like he's doing his taxes. Quick, technical, and totally devoid of feeling. The result? Frost pulls an Elsa, the evil edition, vanishes with an icy, to be continued hanging in the air. Ronnie leaves class down 1x, up one arch nemesis, smash cut to the watchtower. Yup, it's back. And surprise, no one seems to have learned a thing from past failures. Aquaman rolls in with a fresh crew, and what should have been a moment of unity turns into a reality show-style fight for bunk beds. Booster Gold and Guy Gardner nearly kill each other over who gets the top mattress, while Skeets complains about the AC like he's stuck in a 2-star motel. Then, the obligatory global crisis hits. Boom tubes popping up all over the planet, apocalypse invading like it's Black Friday. Martian gives one of his inspirational speeches, which doesn't really inspire anyone, but terrifies them enough to fall in line. 3 attack fronts, 3 chances to completely screw up. Naturally, Bats picks the suicide mission, because fun is not in his vocabulary. The heroes split up. Calabac goes berserk like it's his birthday, and Batman heads straight for the boom tube generator. And because the universe has a wicked sense of humor, guess who shows up? Darkseid. It's basically a cat fighting a jackhammer, but Batman's stubbornness actually impresses the villain, who admits he had fun, cool, comforting. Just when everything seems headed for tears and the apocalypse, the unexpected happens. The question swoops in like a 90s hacker, reverses the generator's frequency, and zaps the invaders back to apocalypse with a digital see ya. The heroes win, not by muscle, but with brains, resilience, and one hell of a disguise. Happy ending? Sort of. There's cake, obviously, and a fight over it, because if this new Justice League can't even share dessert, good luck saving the world. And when someone asks Batman what it's like not being the one who saved the day, he shrugs and says,
Pretty good.
Honest, concise, and probably the most human thing he's ever said. Are we in Egypt? Nah, still Gotham, but a megalomaniac Egyptian has decided to play Pharaoh in the modern age. And of course, his first stop is a bank, because if you're going full villain, might as well hit where the money is. The guy storms in broad daylight and starts turning customers into zombie followers of Anubis. Ancient Egypt says hi, but fear not, good citizen. Out of nowhere, or maybe a sarcophagus, Batman and Robin show up. The dynamic duo is wrapped head to toe in, wait for it, mummy bandages soaked in curdled milk. Apparently that's the only thing that repels the infamous Pharaoh rays. The fight is more slapstick than serious, ending with Robin dropping a pun so bad it could make you want to strangle the scriptwriter. Then the tone shifts. Jimmy Olsen, the 12-year-old detective masquerading as a reporter, decides to prank Superman. He fakes a near-death experience just to try and weasel out the world's most closely guarded secret, Superman's identity. But Supes has a super sense for lies, sniffs out Jimmy's ironclad health, and nopes out. Jimmy's left red-faced and reputation rock bottom. Meanwhile, a string of comic book-worthy robberies draws Batman straight to Metropolis, where he finds Lex Luthor having an especially diabolical day. Lex kidnaps Lois Lane. Because it's Monday and he's craving attention, Batman goes after her while Superman takes on the bald baddie directly. The city's saved, but something darker brews beneath the surface. Then things get weirder. Superman starts receiving gifts from a secret admirer, Red Flag. Suddenly, he turns into HR manager from hell, rude, authoritarian, and nearly vaporizes Toyman in public because he's tired of criminals. Subtle, right? Jimmy and Lois start to suspect that maybe, just maybe, something's off with the flying guy in red undies. Enter Batman, with detective instincts sharper than any bloodhound. He figures it out. Red kryptonite hidden in Jimmy's gift. Yep, Lex used Lois and Jimmy as unwitting delivery mules to dose Superman. And then, the meltdown. Superman crowns himself King Superman and demands the city kneel before him. Gotham probably had a collective laugh. Realizing things are spiraling, Batman suits up in his special armor, takes the punches, and goes for the emotional kill. Remember your sweet old mom, Clark? It almost works. Almost. Just as Supes is about to turn the bat into a pancake, the red kryptonite's effects wear off. He snaps back, realizes the horror show he put on, and apologizes. Cue the final reveal. It was all Lex Luthor's plan. He wasn't just trying to beat Superman, he wanted to break him, and he nearly did. We finally reached the day when the Justice League decided to swap punches for pitches and swings. Jimmy Olsen, more excited than a kid in a candy store, is narrating an event that seems to have leapt straight out of an alternate universe. Heroes and villains dropping the beatdowns to play. Baseball. Yep, baseball. The Justice League International versus the notorious Legion of Doom. The crossover no one asked for, but everyone needed. Superman and Wonder Woman arrive in style, and the big blue Boy Scout hits a homer so outrageous that, according to Jimmy, the ball flies past Titan. Yes, Titan. Because, you know, physics is just a suggestion. Of course, the Joker wasn't about to miss out on the madness and finds a ridiculously absurd way to tie the game. And just when things seem lost, Batman steps in with a lucky bat gifted by a kid. Because, of course, a random piece of wood is the key to saving the world. Result? Game-winning home run. Final score: Chaos 1, Logic 0. But the show's not over yet. Joker, always Joker, decides the postgame needs a good old-fashioned pie to the face. Batman's face, to be precise. Featuring a cameo by Vicky Vale, who clearly just wanted to be home watching TV. The vibe? Whimsical, circus-like, and completely bonkers, just as expected. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor's playing mad scientist and unveils his plan for infinite energy, with a twist of, I want to kill Superman, but make it look like an accident. Basically, a high-tech trap in the sewers. Classy, right? After all the mayhem, the heroic squad gathers at a diner, reflecting on what legacy they should leave in a time capsule. Spoiler, no one has the faintest idea. A symbol? A gadget? A QR code with their resume? And since good villains never rest, Joker, Cheetah, and Luthor decide to switch nemesis. Now Joker's bugging Wonder Woman, Cheetah becomes Superman's new kryptonite fashionista, and Luthor sets out to mess with Batman's mind. Plot twist, chaos mode activated. On Paradise Island, Joker sneaks in disguised, because obviously sneaking into a no men allowed zone will totally work. Meanwhile, Superman gets his butt kicked by a souped up Cheetah wielding kryptonite nail polish, because innovation matters. And Batman and Alfred pull off a masterclass in strategy and disguise, proving a good butler is basically a ninja. To top it all off, the villains go live, literally, streaming the captured Trinity like trophies. But in true, you forgot who you're dealing with fashion, the heroes break free and turn the tables live on air. Theatrical twist? Absolutely. Deserved? No doubt.
And that's a wrap.
Later, Batman, the most serious detective in pop culture, is tied up in the middle of a superhero celebrity roast hosted, believe it or not, by the Joker. Yes, that Joker. The homicidal clown has taken up stand-up comedy and invited some of his pals like Gorilla Grodd, Mr. Freeze, and even Jeffrey Ross. They're all cracking tasteless jokes at Batman's expense, who of course isn't one to just sit and take it. He breaks free, delivers a solid beatdown to the rogues, and even throws in a few snarky lines with his signature brooding flair. Meanwhile, the real mess is unfolding in the sky, literally 22,300 miles above Earth, aboard the Justice League International satellite. Up there, the young heroes are preparing to welcome the old-timers from the Justice Society of America. But what's meant to be a heartwarming generational reunion quickly spirals into something more like an awkward holiday dinner. Polite at first, then gloriously uncomfortable. The veterans make it clear they're not fans of the modern ways of the newbies, because, let's be honest, saving the world with memes and flashy spandex isn't for everyone. And the absence of Batman only makes things worse. Tensions boil over like a badly run HOA meeting. Not enough food, passive-aggressive jabs, and the usual superhero-sized egos. And just to spice things up, Green Lantern's Guy Gardner and Alan Scott decide to turn it into an intergalactic UFC match. The result? Utter chaos on a floating space base. Seems like even in outer space, egos still collide. And where's Batman during all this? Naturally handling the real problem, facing off against a horde of laser-wielding ninjas, because martial arts alone just won't cut it these days, and confronting the villain of the week, Ra's al Ghul. Yes, him again. His plan? Forget cities or bridges. He wants to trigger solar flares to melt the polar caps and turn Earth into one big global hot tub. Back on the satellite, while Aquaman tries, and spectacularly fails, to start an Atlantean sing-along, the alarms go off and, oops, everyone finally realizes the world might be ending. And because that realization always comes a bit too late, there's only one solution: teamwork. That's right, the same bunch who were trading insults yesterday now need to hold hands and save the planet. In the final battle, young and old unite, rescue Batman, a little embarrassed they hadn't noticed he was missing, defeat the villains, and prove that innovation and tradition really do belong in the same uniform. charm, all topped off with a classic dad joke closer. Martian proudly announces that it wasn't justice that brought them all together.
Justice?
Pie.
For some reason, we have Abraham Lincoln literally beating the crap out of John Wilkes Booth, who's now a steampunk-style Southern villain. That's right, you heard it. And yes, there's a crowd applauding. It's a theater. It's satire. Welcome to Parallel Earth 5501, where even American history has become multiverse circus fodder. But don't think the madness ends there. Gorilla Grodd shows up, hijacking an underwater lab with gorillas riding sharks, because if you're going off the rails, do it with flair. And yet, in this zoo of ideas, Grodd isn't even the big bad. Enter Bat-Mite, Batman's #1 fan and self-proclaimed producer of Batman, the brave and the bold, and he's had enough. The slapstick humor, the recycled plots, the overly cheerful Batman, it's too much, even for a fifth-dimensional being with frustrated writer powers. So Bat-Mite decides the show must end, but forgets sending a letter to the network. He's going to sabotage it from within, swaps voice actors, adds ridiculous gadgets like the neon street-talking Bat-Luge, and turns Batman into a doting dad strolling the Batcave with his daughter on a tricycle, all to get the show cancelled. Enter Ambush Bug, the hero no one asked for but who arrives as the voice of reason. He notices reality's more twisted than Warner's production calendar and tries to convince Batman it's all a meta-sabotage. But Batman, of course, responds like any iconic hero would, with denial, until he realizes he's holding a gun. Yes, Batman with a gun. That's when it clicks that things have gone too far.
But if none of this is real...
While Grodd preps his banana beam, yep, that's what it's called, to turn Gotham into a Darwinian zoo, Batman and Ambush Bug charge into Bat-Mite's chaos. Carnival costumes, Scrappy-Doo-style mascots, and even a new set in Malibu. But amid the madness, Batman finds his core again. The gun is tossed aside, the audience returns, and Grodd fades into the background. The Dark Knight might be part of a wacky comedy, but his principles don't follow that script. Still, even with his dignity restored, the end is inevitable. The show gets cancelled, and who picks up the mantle? A new CGI Batgirl series. Dark visuals, serious tone, and no room for nonsense. No room for Bat-Mite, realizing he doesn't belong in this new gray world. Bat-Mite accepts his fate and bows out, not with drama, but with that bittersweet note of someone who knows he was part of the problem, and part of the solution. The series closes with a party in the Batcave. Everyone together, laughing, goofing off, toasting to the absurd roller coaster that was Brave and the Bold. No tears, just a that was worth it. And Batman, in a final speech that sounds more like a graduation toast, gives thanks, not for saving the world, but for being part of something fun, different, and utterly insane.